Hello, everybody. Welcome to Peegs.com. Welcome to Gamebridge Fieldhouse here in Indianapolis, where the Indiana Hoosiers concluded their exhibition session with a 76-74 win over Baylor. Obviously, exhibition games, they don't mean anything. They don't predict anything. But it's a good chance to get an early glimpse of how teams are looking here in October. What are some things that look good? What are some things that they need to work on? Lamar Wilkerson had a very good game. Tucker DeVries was solid. Tayton Connerway was pretty good. There are a number of things we'll get into. Just for a point of clarification, the coaches agreed no fouling out. Part of the idea of these exhibition games is to work on certain things with your main groups on the floor. So to kind of help facilitate that, no fouling out. Whoever they want on the floor stays on the floor so they can work on things, maximize these kind of opportunities. So with that, let's get into a couple of things. There were a number of things from this game that were pretty interesting. Trevor, I'll throw it to you to start. What were the things that kind of you looked at and you found interesting from this game?
I think from the positive side, you have to talk about the effort IU played with. Once again, get down the first half, as Darren DeVries said in the press conference, get down 13, about 7 minutes to go in the first half. That game could go either way. IU fights back, makes it a 4-point game at halftime, comes out at halftime really strong, ends up, taking the lead pretty early in that second half. But I think the overall effort and stick-to-itiveness from the Hoosiers, I think that stood out. A lot of things to work on, but Lamar Wilkerson, like you talked about, Tucker DeVries were bright spots on the offense end for the Hoosiers. And then Tayton Connerway also had some really good, sequences and plays. Obviously, what would be the game-winning layup with about 8 seconds left in the game. Mm-hmm. He makes a big-time play. So there were positives, but also a lot to work on, I thought, in this overall exhibition game.
No question. And obviously, in October, all teams are works in progress. So we're talking about where they are and what they showed today. But also to follow up on that, I thought 18 assists to 9 turnovers was really good. Obviously, that's a pretty good ratio for a team. You get 18 assists on 25 made baskets. That's a pretty good ratio. Single-digit turnovers against a team like Baylor that has legit length and athleticism. They were obviously missing their starting center, but still, good length and athleticism on the perimeter. Only 9 turnovers. I thought that was good. And then obviously something that's going to make Indiana fans very happy. What are we looking at here? 20 for 21 from the free throw line. I think people are going to be pretty happy with that.
And that miss was the final one by Connerway on the bucket where he put IU ahead. He was fouled. He missed the free throw. That was their only miss of the whole game.
Right. They start 20 for 20 from the free throw line. You'll take 20 for 21 every day and be very happy about it. And I also thought something I thought was pretty interesting. This is the first time that IU's starting group has gone against legit length and athleticism. They don't have the ability to simulate that when their starters go against the backups in practice. And that's the case for a lot of teams. Your starters, are going to be better than your backups. It's why they're starters. But I thought in the first half, IU was sort of like, okay, wait a minute. I got to be a little quicker. I got to make a little crisper cut. I got to make a little more decisive pass here. And then some of this was just kind of like going through that. I thought that was a really good thing. And Darren DeVries even mentioned that in the post-game presser, as did Scott Drew. But I thought that was something that was kind of interesting as you look at sort of like what happened in this game. It was a good test. Baylor's, I think, top 20 in Bart Torvik's preseason prediction, somewhere around there. So it's a very solid opponent to go against. Again, perimeter length and athleticism, something to go against. So there was a positive just from the learning point that you have. And Darren DeVries even pointed out in the post-game presser, no matter what happened, close game, you win, close game, you lose, get beat handily, win handily, no matter what, there were going to be things to take to practice and learn from.
And I think where you really saw, IU getting used to that size and athleticism was the first half on the offensive end. Baylor was really pushing IU away from the bucket. Every pass was tough. They're 35, 40 feet away from the basket on every catch. You just can't run offense effectively from that position. Second half, I thought you got, closer to the three-point line in a scoring position on every catch. The catches were easier. Offense looked a lot better because of that. Obviously, you get a couple threes to fall. That helps as well. Mm-hmm. But I thought them getting to their spots and not getting pushed away from the basket in the second half really helped IU.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that was one of the things that led to Indiana, making more shots early in the second half when they took the lead. They were 4 for 10 from three the first 10 minutes of the second half. 40%. That's obviously very good. And we saw them do what you've written about a number of times. They're going to take threes. 10 3-point attempts the first 10 minutes of the second half. And I don't know if they're going to get 40 up in a game. They might, but that's
Some point.
yeah. I would take I would take the chances being pretty high that that's going to happen at some point in time. But I thought that really what you talked about led to 4 for 10 from three for Indiana the first 10 minutes of the second half. I thought that was pretty notable. As far as things to work on, certainly there were some things on both sides of the ball, perimeter, interior, all kinds of things. I thought rebounding, we know that that's probably going to be a concern or at least a challenge all year. It was today, I thought, obviously.
Yeah, you give up 16 offensive rebounds. Baylor's not a huge team either. On paper, they're about the same size as IU, a little bit, an inch here, inch there, but relatively they're the same size. It's not, an overwhelming team just from height. It was more the athleticism and their willingness to go after the rebound, which really caused IU problems. You can't give up 16 offensive rebounds and expect to win too many ball games. IU knows that's going to be a focal point for the whole season, basically. You can play as good as defense as you want, but if you don't close the possession with a defensive rebound, it does no good. I thought we saw that basically in both halves, but mainly in the first half, really, really hurt IU.
Yeah, and like you said, there were a number of rebounds that came from different positions. It wasn't just the centers or the post players getting the boards just that are close to the rim. Darren DeVries mentioned that I think it was their first shot defense held Baylor to 29%. That's a really good defense. I did think, to follow up on your point, I did think IU's aggressiveness defensively in the second half was very good. I mean, they weren't always positioned perfectly, but again, it's October. But I thought they were pretty aggressive.
Yeah, they were really aggressive, moved really well. I thought the communication was really good. The only other side to that is, you would have had two guys foul out. Wilkerson and Connerway in the regular game foul out, and then you would have two guys with 4 fouls. Enright and Sam Alexis each had 4, so that would totally throw off your rotations, substitution patterns, change your defense if you were going to keep them on the floor.
Sure.
So I think you got to take that with a grain of salt.
Right. And Darren DeVries did say post game he wants them to be really aggressive right now, because he wants to make sure there is aggression and toughness. And then in practice, as they start, doing some more things with maybe some more officials, then you start working on exactly, okay, not necessarily dialing back the toughness, but maybe the aggression, when to be aggressive, when not to be, those kind of things. But he did say he wants aggression right now. They're not calling a ton of tic-tac fouls in practice right now. It's kind of setting a tone, so to speak, a mentality. We're going to be aggressive. This is how we're going to play. And as we go through the rest of October, get into November and December, work on, some specifics, some tactics and things like that.
I thought another, bright spot on the defense end was Sam Alexis coming off the bench as a center, blocks 3 shots, really rebounded well, had a couple dunks, off of feeds and lobs and stuff like that. I thought he gave IU a really good boost, gave them more size and strength inside as well. So I think he's worth mentioning and kind of a bright spot, positive spot for IU.
Yeah, definitely. He came in, and certainly you could tell, his ability to be very, very helpful at minimum. I think, for me, I think those are the key positives, key negatives, things to work on for Indiana. But it's really enjoyable. This is the final point. I love the fact that we get to have these kind of exhibition games, and they're public. Years ago we had that goofy secret scrimmage, and teams played, but they were supposed to pretend like the game never existed, which was just a ridiculous notion. Whoever came up with that is just a knucklehead. But I think it's good. I mean, fans get to come watch Indiana play against a team, a Power 4 team. You turn on the TV, you get to watch games. I just think these things are good. Scott Drew even mentioned that. Darren DeVries mentioned that. So I think it's just overall it's nice that these things are happening, and they're public. They're on TV. They're on streams. It's just good for fans to just get a look at their team, don't you think?
Yeah, I think in the moment it's really good, and then to start the season, I think it really helps teams too. You don't have that feeling out process of finally going against a D1 team that first game of the season, that second game of the season for IU playing Marquette. Now you've seen a team in a similar mold here today in Baylor that you're going to face at Marquette in Chicago down the road.
Absolutely. Great point. Well, for Trevor Andershock, I'm Jeff Rabjohns. That's wrapping it up here for us today. at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. A lot more coming up shortly here on Peegs.com.